Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be doing an update on AMD. Now, AMD, as you guys all know, has been on an absolute tear in the past couple of weeks. The company is almost at $40 a share, and a lot of people are wondering, okay, is the new lineup that AMD is coming out with going to push it even higher into the future? Are they going to continue to erode market share away from AMD? And, is right now AMD a good investment? So I'm going to be looking at AMD through the lens that I normally look through my companies at and try to reassess, okay, right now, without holding any shares in AMD, disclosure, I am not long at all AMD, do I think that right now is a good buying opportunity for my own personal risk tolerance? So I'm going to be going over a little bit of my history with AMD, how long I've been covering it, my positions I've had in the past. I'm going to be going over what are the fundamental storyline things that are going on at AMD right now, and then I'm going to be taking a quick look at the fundamentals of the actual business and how the business is performing, and then kind of wrapping that all up and giving my overall opinion on the company. Now, again, as a full disclosure, I am not a financial advisor, so you guys know that all of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about is completely my opinion, and it is not for, your investment advice or anything like that. It is pretty much just my opinion that I'm throwing out there, so you guys can kind of get an understanding of where I'm coming from when I'm looking at this type of a company. And now, as always, guys, if you like this content, make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. And also, throw a comment in the comment section down below and let me know, is this type of video something you would like to see more of in the future? So that's about it. Without further ado, let's get in the video. Alright, and just as a quick refresher, if you guys have been following along with my channel for over a year now, or if you guys are kind of new to my channel, just kind of give you a heads up, I have been following AMD as an investment for over 5 years now, give or take, and I've been an employee or a consumer working with their products for just about 10 years now. So I have a pretty good relationship with AMD, and I've been following the company for a very long time. And now, if you guys look at my old videos going way back over in 2018, I talked about that I went long in AMD when it was at $10.51 a share. I thought that the company was should be valued at roughly $25 a share based off my rudimentary assumptions. And I also just thought that in retrospect, with all the issues that were going on at Intel, I thought I could speculate and say, okay, I think that AMD is going to be able to gain a lot of market share. And it did. And thankfully, the stock price went from roughly $10.51 to $25, and I was able to sell out, and then the stock price continued to rally up to like the mid-30s. It crashed back down to 17 something. I entered into the position again and wrote it back up to $25 and sold out because that was still my fundamental price target. And now, if you look at the stock price is essentially at $40 a share. So this is a great little caveat to look at, that never take my advice or anybody else's advice on, say, an investment advice, or whether you should be buying a stock, holding onto a stock, or selling a stock, because no one's really right in this game. No one is right 100% of the time. It's really just, what do you think in your own assumption, and then what conclusion did you get to, and did you follow through on that? That's really the important name in this game. And so, as a quick thing, my biggest trade, I made 135%. My shorter trade, I made roughly 42%. And if I absolutely did nothing after I made my initial purchase and just held on to the stock until today, I would be up 270%. So obviously, I missed out and I left a lot of money on the table. But, to each their own, that's just the way the cookie crumbled. So, taking a step back, okay, looking away from, that's my history with the company. I have had history with it. I've gotten some gains with it. But now looking at it again, okay, what's going on with the fundamentals? What's going on with the story right now? And why are still so many people so bullish on AMD even after this massive 4x return in just a couple of years? So when you look at it, AMD has been doing something that everybody kind of counted them out for over a decade, and that was actually bringing innovative products at an attractive price range to the CPU market space. Now, Intel, as I'm sure as you all know, has been dominating this market with a 90 to 95% market share of this whole space for decades. The last time that AMD got anywhere close to the market share it has right now was, I think, back in 2012. And that was very short-lived, and AMD quickly retracted back to only having a couple of percent of market share in just a couple of months the last time this had happened. So now we're at the point where AMD is pumping out very, very competitive CPUs with their new Ryzen 3 lineup, and everybody's wondering now, with the newest ones coming out at the end of November, everybody's wondering how much more market share they're going to be able to take. Right now, AMD's kind of climbed up between 5 and 7% of a market share, depending on what segment you're looking at. And just from over 2 years ago, that was about 1 or 2%. So AMD is on a massive amount of growth right now, and a lot of people are expecting that growth to continue. Now, with the benchmarks that have been coming out recently and everybody kind of looking at, okay, you have an Intel CPU that's about roughly $1,000 that's getting outperformed by an AMD CPU that's only $400, depending on the task you're doing. A lot of people are revisiting their whole schema when they build a PC and like, okay, what do I value more? And is buying the Intel CPU even worth it? As you guys know, my PC that I built this year personally, I have a Ryzen 3700X in it because personally for my, my content creation, the games I play, and for doing like data analysis, I don't need the Intel CPU counterpart. I can get a much cheaper and much more effective CPU from AMD without having to shell out a lot of money. So I have gone to the AMD side recently, and I think a lot more consumers are also following in that same footing. So that's kind of the fundamental side, that's kind of the story of the fundamentals that has been going on. AMD has been really rapidly gaining market share because of their new chip design, and Intel has been stumbling every step of the way. Intel has not been able to really bring out their 10 nanometer node that they've been talking about for over 2 years now. It keeps getting delayed, they keep having issues with it, and AMD is just eating their lunch during that whole time. So a lot of people are just assuming that because it's happened in the past, and because of the past 2 years it's been going AMD's way, it's going to continue to go AMD's way in the short term. And that's really where a lot of the mindset is right now in terms of the story for the company going forward. Now, when you take a step back from the story and you understand, like, okay, the story is great, the story checks all the boxes, they've been living up to the story that people have been having for it and the growth expectations that people have had for them for the past couple of years. But now, what's the actual fundamental? What's the underlying business doing right now? Like, I understand Lisa Su is really steering the ship in the correct way, but what's the financial health and what kind of profitability as a investor or a share owner can I expect to gain after holding on to a company like AMD? And in my opinion, it's kind of lukewarm. So you can take a look at their PE ratio right now is at over 190, and that's just because they are still not super profitable. They have a couple of quarters of profitability recently, but over the past decade they've mostly been unprofitable, and now they're only really just starting to become profitable again while their price has been ballooning. So their PE is also ballooning. Their forward PE is expected to drop down to be roughly a 40, which is still pretty high, but it's much more tolerable to most investors than 190. And that's just something to keep in mind. Again, that's the forward number, so that's not guaranteed. That's just what people are expecting out of the company's performance. And then you also take a step back and you look at, okay, well, what's the cash flow that this company is providing to me? Because I am one of the people that prescribes to the rule of thought that when I make an investment, I want to discount the cash flows that I expect to be getting, and if I can discount those cash flows back to present day, it's going to be worth X, and if it's below what that is worth, I'm going to buy it because I think it's undervalued, and if it's worth above it, I'm going to sell it because I think it's overvalued. And currently, AMD is currently having a negative cash flow. Now, when you think about that, that means that this company, that even though that they're gaining market share, even though that their EPS is starting to get better, at their bottom line number in terms of money that is going back into the business, after they service all their debts, after they pay all their shareholders, after they pay all everything, they're losing money still. And that is something that I personally don't want to see in a long-term type of investment. For a trade or for a swing trade, anything like that, you don't really have to care that much about it. But if you're looking for a company and you plan on holding on to them for 5-10 years at a time, normally, in my opinion, you would want a steady cash flow coming in. That's just the way I personally look at investments. That's honestly not the only way you can look at investments, but for my investment philosophy, that's what I stick to. And then also just kind of a financial health situation is that their interest coverage ratio, or so the amount of times that they can take in the money that they've made and pay off their debt, is sitting at about a 2.6. So that means that with all their money that they're coming in, they can cover their interest payments 2.6 times. And the way I look at that is that, okay, you have a company that's in a very cyclical business, and if right now they're only realistically staying afloat by 2.5 times the amount of money they're taking in, what happens when they lose 50% or more of their revenue if there's a massive slowdown in infrastructure for computers expansion over the next couple of years? Now, obviously, we've had a massive run-up in data centers. A lot of people have been dumping more and more money into new tech. But as we all know, the global economy is starting to slow down. Who knows if that's going to continue or not. Germany was on the brink of getting into a recession just a couple of weeks ago. Brexit's happening. China's going through a lot of political turmoil with Hong Kong and Beijing. And so there's a lot of risk factors that can be going into the global economic slowdown going forward. And so in my opinion, when you have a cyclical business and they aren't in the most safe financial healthy situation that they could be in, I think that that's a lot of extra risk that I just personally don't want to sink my money into. So that's kind of my opinion on AMD for right now. It's still a fabulous company. I think their products are amazing. I think that Lisa Su is doing an amazing job, and I think that the company is going in the right direction with their balance sheet. They're becoming a capital light business model, so that means that they're trying to have more and more current assets than fixed assets. So that means that's why they're outsourcing all of their chip manufacturing to TSM, so that way they don't have to buy the fabs, they don't have to do all of that. They can just keep the cash, hoard the cash, and then strategically pivot as they need it in a much easier fashion because all of those assets are so liquid. I think that that is the right strategy, and I think that that's the strategy Intel is going to have to start adopting pretty soon. However, right now I think there's just too much risk for my personal liking. Based off of the way I look at the market and my own assumptions, I personally just am staying away from the company for right now. If the company has a major sell-off at any point in time, I might rethink that strategy. But as of right now, I'm still staying out of it. I know that this is a company that a lot of you that follow my channel follow along or invest in. And so I just want to give you guys my 2 cents because I haven't talked about the company in a very long time. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys got some use out of this. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you guys interested in buying AMD, or do you guys still currently own AMD? I would really like to hear your thoughts. Do you guys think that they're going to continue to gain market share and get more profitability into the future? Or are you kind of in my boat and you think it's just too risky for your own personal liking? So, hope you guys got some use out of this again, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.